Ladies and gentlemen, the Euros are around the corner, and you know what that means. Jordan Henderson. It means beer gardens, white and red bunting, fireworks being inserted into old men, and a general sense of optimism and patriotism that can only be taken away by a Tottenham player.
You put it over by a mile.
Euro 2024 will undoubtedly see football coming home again until it's not. And here is the squad that I believe should be going forward and leading the Three Lions and the rest of the country. This one's kind of difficult, I'm not gonna lie. We've got a lot of ballers and a lot of depth in really random areas and then absolutely no depth in others. But let me know down in the comments section before we start which surprises maybe Gareth Southgate's gonna bring to the table. The first up, we've got the goalkeepers, the absolute mentalists of any squad. They hit their heads as children, ate socks in the playground, and will sit on the back of this plane to the Euros by choice. No leg room whatsoever. And no arm room would be needed for our first pick here. That's Jordan Pickford. Now, he's actually had a really good season for Everton, as I'll talk more about in the Team of the Season Premier League video. He's actually second in the Golden Glove charts, despite Everton obviously struggling down at the bottom of the table. And I do genuinely think Jordan Pickford's been really impressive. He's got 60 caps for England. I don't see a world in which Gareth Southgate doesn't start him. I know he made a mistake or two against Belgium, but he is usually pretty safe hands, even if he is absolutely mental. Your second option, Aaron Ramsdale, who of course isn't starting for Arsenal anymore. He's been phased out by David Raya, and when he has played this season, honestly, he's struggled. I'm looking at you, Brentford. The worst part is that when Gareth Southgate puts on a tape that's about an hour and a half long for his goalkeepers to watch and study, Aaron Ramsdale ain't gonna be concentrating for it.
I'm finished, I can't do it.
The guy's got ADHD. I would love for him to be in. Jordan Pickford has ADHD too, to be fair, but I don't expect him to start, and his dad is going to be left absolutely furious when he realizes he's been dropped for his country too. And then the wild card options, I guess. We've got Nick Pope for Newcastle. Now, before we start as well, I should have mentioned this actually at the start. A, you need 3 goalkeepers in a Euros squad. That is by definition and law. A law that I've not listened to in the past on this channel, but I'm going to listen to today. And also, squads have been expanded. Usually it's a 23-man squad. Now it is 26. We've got 3 extra players that can be involved. Now, Nick Pope has obviously been out for a while, but the Newcastle goalkeeper is undoubtedly a solid shot stopper. Not great with his feet, where Aaron Ramsdale and especially Jordan Pickford are like very solid. He's low on sharpness after his shoulder injury at the end of 2023, but personally, if he's fit, I think Nick Pope should still be on the plane, even if he doesn't get any game time. And then realistically, you're looking at Dean Henderson and Sam Johnston, both for Crystal Palace. Dean Henderson's got into the Palace team recently, but to me, both much of a muchness. They'd just be the third choice if Nick Pope isn't fit. Now that we move on to right backs, and this is the most unnecessarily stacked part of really any England squad probably ever. First of all, we've got Trent Alexander-Arnold, which is a bit of a difficult one because Gareth Southgate's been experimenting with playing him as a central midfielder recently. Now, I don't know what he's going to do, and I'm not predicting what the starting 11 is going to be. I would quite like to see Trent in a central area, again, because I think it gets more of your good players onto the pitch. I don't necessarily know if it'd be great for balance in every single game. Either way, he's been injured at points during this season, but I still think he's been his solid usual self, maybe slightly below par, certainly in the last month, but the rest of the Liverpool squad have been as well. He still deserves to go, and I do genuinely believe he'll play in central midfield areas. I just don't know what the lineup will be around him. Kyle Walker, maybe not quite been his usual self at Man City. I know Man City fans have been a little bit frustrated with him at times this season. He's a good 1v1 defender. I loved his battle with Vinny Jr. last season, less so this season. Wasn't necessarily on the right side of it this season, but last campaign, that was an absolute classic winger versus wing-back scenario. And I think Kyle Walker, amongst most wing-backs that will be going to the Euros, is still probably top 6 out of all of the wing-backs that you'll see at that competition. So I'd be happy to see him play at right-back if Trent is moved into central midfield. He's overall just like the father of England right-backs, as well as a father for most other kids across the country.
Shut up!
Was maybe a little bit more consistent than Trent Alexander-Arnold, you know. Trent only really had like 9 months probably this season. Trent not had the full year really with his injury. He's been good for 9 months. Just don't say that around him. That tends to get him going a little bit too much. But if we're talking about availability and a lack of, there's only one man to discuss, and that's Reece James. If we need a right back that's going to be available for 57 minutes of this tournament, then he is your man. Now, genuinely, I feel so bad for Reece James, man. He's such a well-rounded right back. He's a sensational footballer. Technically speaking, he's strong. strong as well. He's just unbelievably athletic. He's a great defender overall, but availability is the best type of ability, and he does not have that. He is, of course, back within about 5 minutes of stepping onto the pitch, got an assist against Nottingham Forest as well. So is there time for a late charge? Would you put him in your team? Then we've got Kieran Trippier, who was sensational at the start of the season, absolutely diabolical in the middle of the season, and then has been injured for the rest of the season after that. But as I said, can play right back and left back, which is very helpful in a European tournament scenario. And then finally, we've got Ben White, arguably the best performing of any of these right backs this season, probably a team of the season contender for the entire Premier League. But like Xabi Alonso in the World Cup final of 2010, he's not that keen on Holland. Look, listen, after his scrap allegedly with the assistant manager Steve Holland for England, he's not going to get picked. And let's be real, he doesn't want to go anyway. He'd rather be fake tanning and go into Tenerife for the summer. From an area where we've got a lot of depth and a lot of strong depth to an area where we maybe don't now, and that's at centre-back. We've got enough options, definitely, to fill in a squad, but it's not maybe the level that you would want it to be to go out and actually win Euro 2024. Almost said Euro 2020, it's a little bit late for that now. First of all, Harry Maguire at Manchester United. One of the redemption arcs of the season, I think it's got to be said. Quietly been one of the Red Devils' best players over the season. Not that difficult overall. He makes Casemiro look like Harry Maguire 3 years ago. It's crazy. They genuinely missed him and the rest of the centre-backs that have been out injured for them this season. I'd go as far to say as I might even trust him. I think it's with good reason. He's always better for England. I think he fits Gareth Southgate's system pretty well. I would trust him alongside a competent centre-back for sure. And that competent centre-back for me has got to be John Stones, realistically. Not had the season that he had last year, for sure, but that's just because of Pep Guardiola roulette, partly. And I think that combination of him and Harry Maguire just works relatively well for England, so I don't mind it personally. If you're looking at depth, then we're moving on to Fikayo Tomori. I've said it time and time again, I don't think Gareth Southgate pays for his TV license. Clearly, he ain't watching this guy on TNT Sports. Fikayo's been out injured for 2 months, which won't really help his cause between sort of January and March, but it's still been important in helping AC Milan with 24 starts to second in Serie A. I think he definitely deserves to go. Then at Everton, we have got the revelation that is Jared Branthwaite. Now, I knew this guy should be good, yeah, when I found out that he got loaned to PSV. Like, for me, yeah, if you're Everton and you're loaning a centre-back or loaning a player to PSV have to just be objectively better than Everton, right? Can we all agree on that?
Come on, let's have something real, come on.
They won the league this season. They almost went invincible in the Eredivisie. So when I knew that was happening and he was actually playing for them, I was like, this guy has to be special. And he's been very, very good. Genuinely, I hope he makes the right move. Just don't go to United, bro, please. They'll ruin you somehow. Only seen him get bodied once, and that was like Erling Haaland, which is absolutely fine. Other options include Ezri Konsa, one of the most underrated players in the Premier League. Important again in terms of Aston Villa reaching the Champions League, getting top 4 for the first time in 4 decades. Lewis Dunk as well, experienced, very good ball-playing defender who was great in the first half of the season. Bit of a victim of Brighton and completely capitulating at the end. Got rinsed by Romelu Lukaku. Doesn't, you know, serve very well. But at this point, if you're getting chosen as Lewis Dunk, you're probably not going to get that much game time anyway. Then there's Mark Gahey at Crystal Palace. Hasn't necessarily stood out as much this season, but Ollie Glasner has got Palace playing really, really well. Levi Colwill, for versatility purposes, can play all the way across the back line. Maybe could get a shout too. And then I never thought I'd say this, but Eric Dyer. Nah, I'm joking. I'm not being for real. But has put in a couple decent performances in the Champions League. And it's Gareth Southgate. So you never know. Left backs now, we're staying on the lack of depth really here. We start with Luke Shaw, cemented himself in England history with a goal in the final of Euro 2020, even if it didn't end or result in us actually winning the tournament overall. He'll have one season where he's absolutely amazing, then one season where you don't notice him, or he's injured, or he's terrible. Been described as a leg injury, by the way. Have you ever seen an injury labelled that vaguely? No, and I'll tell you why, it's because his whole leg is collapsed. He's injured every single muscle in his whole legs. And anytime any of them goes, the whole rest of it's gone as well. I'm assuming he'll be fit because we only just received a sort of recent setback that saw him miss the recent Arsenal games. So he will be fit for the tournament. It's about whether he starts because he hasn't had much game time recently. You've got Joe Gomez, who I think has actually, again, had a bit of a redemption arc amongst Liverpool fans. Every time I saw Joe Gomez come off the bench, before this season, I was petrified. The guy was just an absolute liability, but genuinely he's been pretty decent this season, both playing at left back when Andrew Robertson and Tsimikas were both injured. He started his career as well as a right back, so can obviously play over there and has done many a time for Liverpool. Can play technically as a centre back, though I wouldn't necessarily play him there anymore. When there was all the hype about Joe Gomez at first at Liverpool, he was a centre back, and even more recently he's been playing as a DM. So I think that versatility would actually be very helpful in this squad. Next up, we got Ben Chilwell. No, the weather. Ben Chilwell has been arse. Yeah, I'm just gonna put it as bluntly as I can. This guy has been distracted, messaging OnlyFans models, not playing football. Look, listen, if I see Ben Chilwell on the plane, they're not making it through passport patrol. I'm just saying that now. I don't know what's happened, okay, but he's been shocking this season for club and for country. I hope that he can return to the Ben Chilwell of the Leicester days and the first season at Chelsea, but even then, I think he's good enough, like, at his peak to be like a backup for England or challenge Luke Shaw, but this season, no, absolutely does not deserve to be on the plane. The outsiders, Rico Lewis, who I think is a little bit too young to feature. He also plays a role for Man City that isn't just left back anyway, and even when it is, it's far more complex than that, but I think he could be useful in like a couple of years. The next international tournament, I think you definitely see him going. We've got Tyrick Mitchell as well for Palace, who's been very reliant, very dependable, and then Dan Burn, just for unpredictability. You know, I think there's certain wingers at the Euros that would see a 6'6" left back and just be concerned or confused at the very least for like the full 90 minutes. Central midfield, Jude Bellingham. Yes, there's no debate. He's already on the plane. The season hasn't even ended yet. Bro's got a Champions League final to... He can't go because we have got C18A ready for him. If we play him in that advanced role as well, he is gonna absolutely slap. And don't listen to what some random don with a Barcelona account on Twitter has said about him in big games. I don't care if he ghosted like twice against Bayern Munich. It's not ideal, yes, it's a semi-final of a Champions League, I get that, but you're not always going to turn up in every big game. The guy scored late last-minute winners in both El Clasicos in the league this season. Barca aren't as strong, but the guy is still a big game player. The guy had Leverkusen syndrome at the start of the year. He is the first name on the team sheet absolutely every single time. Declan Rice, also yes. Haven't really decided yet whether I want to see these two in a double pivot and whether it would work. I don't think it would. I would rather see Bellingham further forward, which opens up a space in central midfield. But yeah, Declan Rice, I mean, yeah, team of the season, shoe-in for the Prem, one of the best DMs in the world. Let's move on. Conor Gallagher, energy. Have you ever seen a man more suited to being a Gareth Southgate footballer in your entire life? No. This guy's gonna get minutes at this tournament, whether we like it or not. I personally think he deserves it. I think he's been one of the few consistent players at Chelsea this season, along with like obviously Cole Palmer or maybe a Malo Gusto as well. Conor Gallagher is a footballer with technique. We just kind of get a bit lost in the fact that he's a bit of a passion merchant, which he still is. But I think he can offer a decent amount to this England side, even if I wouldn't want to start him in every single game. Next up, Jordan Henderson. Now, look, listen, I love the Jordan Henderson of the Liverpool days. I love the Jordan Henderson of the Al Ettifaq days significantly less. That was a bit of a scam from him, I'm not gonna lie. But after his return from the Arabian Nights, he's done all right at Ajax, 3 assists in 8 games, and he gassed them up when he first joined. He's obviously a good guy to have in the dressing room, but I feel like he just doesn't deserve to be in the squad. He's not been playing at a level high enough to be able to impact a Euros, apart from quite literally being another cheerleader or an assistant manager in the dressing room. Gareth Southgate's got his backroom staff. He doesn't need another player like that. Just invite him along. Hire him as another coach if you're gonna do that. We've got James Maddison at Tottenham, another player that shined bright very much so at the start of the season when he first joined Tottenham. Very, very solid first half, then got injured. He struggled to kind of reach those heights again recently, but still definitely within a shout of a place on the plane here. A more surprising one is definitely Ross Barkley. Kind of a similar player, actually, to James Maddison, in a way. I really like this redemption arc. This sort of Luton out of nowhere, kind of, they didn't even know they were going to sign him, and everyone was kind of like, well, Ross Barkley, failed wonder kid, whatever. He actually showed what he was about this season. All it took was an away end that looks like a conservatory, and the guy's absolutely slapped this season. And then the outsiders, Calvin Phillips. Probably the outsider to all outsiders based on form. The guy has had an absolutely disastrous time since Euro 2020. If it was the Calvin Phillips of that tournament, there's an argument to say he starts again, genuinely alongside Declan Rice with Bellingham in front of them. It's not to be this time around. James Ward-Prowse, always within a shout. Again, very strong first half of the season for West Ham. West Ham have kind of petered out again second half of the season, but still a worthy contender. Harvey Elliott, I think, is one that always goes under the radar. I would want to see him graduate from the under-21s eventually. I think he offers a lot. He's very versatile. He's got a very good range and set of skills. He's always playing for Liverpool, one of the best teams in the country, and he's still a young footballer. Like, I don't really understand how he doesn't get more of a shout. Adam Wharton as well, I've been really impressed with Crystal Palace. Definitely too early, but if he has another season like he has started in the Premier League, A, he might get another bigger move from Crystal Palace, but B, you might want to see him in the England setup. Back to an area of the pitch where we've got 74 players. It's the wide areas, the wingers. I'm lumping everyone together for this one because I feel like the wide area is a bit more fluid. No one's putting Kyle Walker at left back in the 55th minute, do you know what I'm saying? Anyway, forget about all that drama. First of all, we start with Cole Palmer. That was not meant to be a bar, but the coldness personified 21 goals in the Prem in his first season at a Chelsea side that without him would be about 16th in the league right now. I've never seen a footballer take a team from genuine, like, without him, they're in a relegation scrap, no matter how big Chelsea are, to just purely European football. It's actually crazy. Phil Foden is next up, another Manchester City graduate, but one that is still at the club. This probably, for me, actually, I think it is Phil Foden's best season. He's really finally made a place in the side his own. You know, I think he will move centrally eventually. Again, I don't mean to do these bars. When Kevin De Bruyne leaves Man City, I could see him transitioning finally into that creative spark from the central area, but this has been Phil Foden's best season. He's locked down the left-hand side. He should have the left-hand side locked down for England as well. Next question. On the right-hand side, and we've got Bukayo Saka. I mean, he's not had the absolute 10 out of 10 season. I'd say his season's been like an 8.5. Bukayo Saka is an immense talent. A direct footballer who can beat his man any direction. He's just influential as well. Let's not let him take the final penalty of a shootout in the final, if that's okay, Bukayo. Now, there's a lot of guys who have been established in Euro squads before, like Marcus Rashford. For me, I'm not so sure about these guys, because an international dressing room, I always say this, is the same as any dressing room in the sense that there has to be a level of cohesion. At the very least, you can't just change a squad by 12 to 15 players just before a tournament starts, okay? There is an argument to say that a Marcus Rashford or a Raheem Sterling should go purely based on their presence in the dressing room. The problem is Rashford has been so hot and cold this season. To be honest, just cold. And I don't mean the Cole Palmer situation as well, unless it's in a nightclub at 4 AM in Belfast. And then you've got Raheem Sterling, who, in fairness, with both of these guys, they do step up in international tournaments. Raheem Sterling especially. They are getting on a little bit more. They've both had 4 seasons. I mean, Raheem Sterling, bro, if he produces that free kick again that he did for Chelsea, genuinely, at an international tournament, that could be considered a war crime. If there's a UN official within the general radius of a stadium and he drops a bomb like that, that could start nuclear warfare. So for the good of the German people more than anything, and the general public, it might be better that he's not going and doing that. One man that would theoretically deserve to go based on current form, though, however, is Anthony Gordon, who for Newcastle I think has been imperative. I like his creative force. I don't think that gets talked about enough. Anthony Gordon's actually a really good creative player. Creates plenty of chances for Alexander Isak. Jared Bowen, again, has also been sensational. He's been playing up top a decent amount for West Ham, but he can also fill in on the right-hand side, obviously, and in behind a striker as well. Once again, a versatile footballer whose goal contributions and output this season has been really, really strong. The outsiders, Ebere Eze for Palace, who looks like one of the best players in the league under Ole Glasner, and looked good anyway, to be honest with you. Finally, Jadon Sancho, resurgence at Borussia Dortmund into a Champions League final, and has looked unbelievable on the journey. Absolutely rinsed Nuno Mendes in both legs against PSG. So, could he make a late charge? And then finally, we've got the men in the middle. It is the strikers, your number 9s for this England squad. Now, you probably want to take 3 players that can play down the middle, especially in a 26-man squad, but they might be wingers that can be converted into strikers, like a Jared Bowen. Either way, one of them will definitely be Harry Kane. Let's not beat around the bush. All-time top scorer for England just is gonna start. He's not won any trophies, again, but 36 goals in 32 in the Bundesliga, although for Bayern might not sound crazy impressive, it's still near Robert Lewandowski numbers. He's had the best debut campaign of any player in Bundesliga history for goal scoring. He's come close to those Lewandowski numbers that could have won in the Ballon d'Or in 2020. But one man I would really love to see get some proper minutes is Ollie Watkins. What a season he has had at Aston Villa. Instrumental in getting them into the Champions League. The guy has been absolutely ridiculous. 19 goals and 12 assists shows that he can actually bring others into play as well. And then you've got Dominic Solanke, who 18 goals for Bournemouth Bournemouth in the league this season is so impressive. He's had the season of his life. I'm proud of him as an ex-Liverpool youngster that didn't really make the grade. I'm genuinely glad that he's done well. And then on top of that, we've got Ivan Toney from Brentford, who was actually included in the last squad. I don't think Dominic Solanke's ever got an England call-up. Well, certainly, maybe not recently. I don't know, actually. I might be lying. But Ivan Toney was in the most recent squad, which is almost a little bit of a surprise. Obviously, he was banned for a number of months, several months, due to his gambling charges for Brentford. Missed the entire first half of his campaign. He's played 15 games. He's got 4 goals. He's not really set the world alight, but he's not been too bad. I don't think we could ever expect him to get back to those crazy heights at the end of last season, having not played a single game of football, apart from like 2 friendlies to return, really, from the ban. I don't know. I would be kind of surprised if he made it purely on merit. I feel like it would be one of those things where it's a comfort pick again from Gareth Southgate. So now it's time to pick the team. We've gone through all of the options. This is the 26-man squad that I'm taking to Euro 2024. But before we get into it, make sure you subscribe to the channel, man. Come on, it's what all these 26 dons would have wanted. I'm telling them that they need to be on the plane. If you want their boarding passes to actually get printed, you've got to subscribe to the channel. So let's start off with the goalkeepers. I think this is pretty self-explanatory based on how I set things up earlier. It's going to be Jordan Pickford, it's going to be Aaron Ramsdale, and it's going to be Nick Pope. And I think probably in that order of being likely to be played, that's just the best 3 goalkeepers that we have without question. Then we move on to the right backs, or so called, because the first one is Trent Alexander-Arnold, potentially going to get deployed in a central area. But then after that, obviously Kyle Walker, again, pretty self-explanatory. And the third choice for me, even though he's not had that much football this season, I'm going to go with Reece James. He is unquestionably an outstanding right back when he's fit. I think Kyle Walker will probably start. But if you do need Reece James, just make sure you're bedding him in nicely. And I think he will be of use at the tournament. So I would go with those guys. That does mean that Kieran Trippier is going to miss out in my eyes. Yeah, that might be slanderous, truthfully, given Kieran Trippier is in most England squads, or has been in terms of tournaments. I would just rather take Reece James. Centre-backs, again, this probably won't be too much of a surprise. Harry Maguire is in. He's not the first, actually. I've said him first, but John Stones is the first out of the centre-backs that's guaranteed a spot. Then I would say Harry Maguire. Fikayo Tomori, I think, is going to be the third one on this list as well. I do think he deserves to go. The fourth option, young Jared Branthwaite. Again, been really impressed with him at Everton. He's been called up into the senior team recently, so don't see a reason for him not to make it. And then I am actually going to take a fifth centre-back, again, just in case we want to change formationally and play a 5 at the back or 3 at the back at any point. I'm going to go with Ezri Konsa. So no Lewis Dunk in this squad. Ezri Konsa is a sensational defender. I really like him. And also, if we do end up playing Trent Alexander-Arnold through the middle, Ezri can actually play out on the right-hand side as well. We've got a lot of versatile defenders in this team that I'm going to be picking here, which I think is really important. So Ezri, make your way onto the plain sunshine. You're towards the back still, I can't lie. A lot of the seats were already taken when I was choosing, but you're there, you're on, you're getting your complimentary biscuits. The left back options are very easy. I'm going to fly through these. Luke Shaw, I think, should be back. Won't be an ideal preparation, given he's missed like the last 2-3 months of the season, but I do think he is our strongest left back ultimately. And Joe Gomez is the backup. So I think he's been really good at left back when called upon for Liverpool this season. Can play right back, can play centre back, and can play DM if required. Stepping into central midfield, there are 2 guys sat right at the front of the plane, either in first class. They ain't even sat with the rest of the guys. It's Jude Bellingham and Declan Rice, who fill out 2 of the front row seats. Yeah, these 2, both sensational, both have to start in pretty much every single game that's worth anything. I'm going to be taking Conor Gallagher from Chelsea. I think he's been consistent this season and just generally deserves a place. Kobbie Mainoo, I think, is a young sort of wild card for central midfield. I think in 2 years at the next international tournament, he will be guaranteed to be starting. A Mainoo, Rice, Bellingham midfield could genuinely win us things on its own. That is insane. And then finally, I think in terms of central midfielders, or specifically centre mids, I'm going to go with James Maddison from Tottenham, who again has struggled a little bit more recently. But once again, just another extremely creative player to be able to bring on. I know that does leave us a little bit light in terms of DMs. I realise that. There's just not that many good, properly defensive midfielders. We do just need Calvin Phillips to be good again. Now, the wide areas, I'm not going to lie, were the trickiest to choose here, to be honest with you. We'll get the easy ones out of the way early doors. Bukayo Saka, Phil Foden, and Cole Palmer are absolutely on this flight. There is absolutely nothing that can change my mind. And then it got like very, very tricky because you've got the likes of Marcus Rashford, Raheem Sterling, and Jared Bowen, which is why out of those guys, I'm going to choose Jack Grealish. This is a wild card. I realize I've spun your head tops. I didn't even talk about him in the original part of the video. Truthfully, I forgot. I wrote notes down for him and I just didn't say them. What I will say is Jack Grealish, I think, offers something that most other wingers or wide players that we have in the squad don't offer. His insane ball carrying ability would be useful. I know he's not been great for Man City, also because he's not had a crazy amount of opportunities to stay in the squad long term due to Pep Roulette. I think he still would be useful. It's not necessarily he deserves it, but I think he's such a different type of player that you just kind of have to take him for me. That's just my personal preference as well. Jared Bowen, I think, also should be on this plane too. A wide player that, again, has versatility, can play in just behind the striker, or if really necessary, can just act as a third choice striker, which leaves me with a choice basically between one of Marcus Rashford and Raheem Sterling, which I will be honest with you, I have not made that choice yet. Marcus Rashford has probably had the better season domestically, and again is a key member of an England sort of dressing room. Raheem Sterling is an absolute key member of an England dressing room at basically any tournament we've had for the last 10 years, I would say, truthfully, but has had an absolutely apocalyptic campaign for Chelsea. But unfortunately, I am going to have to go against the grain in terms of performance here. I'm going to choose Raheem Sterling, and that's not Manchester United bias. Genuinely, I actually like Marcus Rashford, genuinely. Raheem Sterling has been our player of the tournament at sort of tournaments past. I just think there's more chance of Raheem Sterling pulling something crazy out of the bag despite having a bad season than Marcus Rashford. Oh god, that's a tough one. Let me know what you think, Rashford or Sterling, guys. And that's the most difficult decision. One of the easier ones though is the strikers. Harry Kane again is joining Declan Rice and Jude Bellingham on the front row of this plane. These guys might even be in with the pilots, I can't even lie. They might like be assistants, like helping them fly the plane. Just please don't miss any penalties this time, Harold. That would be appreciated. And Ollie Watkins has had the season of his career. Absolutely no way that he's not going. If you keep it up with the maths, that fills out the 26-man squad, which means no Dominic Solanke or Ivan Toney, which might be a little bit controversial. Again, kind of using the whole Jared Bowen can play through the middle to fill that gap, which isn't great. And I know there probably is an argument to have a third proper striker, but we only play one of them anyway. Harry Kane, unless there's a drastic injury, is probably going to start every single game. So Ollie Watkins is just a backup. I don't necessarily think that Ivan Toney or Dominic Solanke offer anything that is so necessary that we don't already have. That's basically my reasoning for that. Those are my choices. That is my 26-man squad to go to Euro 2024. Personally, I think it's got a nice blend of players that have been in the setup for a while, that are there and can contribute in terms of keeping sort of togetherness and cohesion, but also quite a lot of guys that are there based off how good they've been this season. It is a shame there's some high-profile omissions here, like Solanke, like Anthony Gordon, like Marcus Rashford. Kieran Trippier isn't in this squad. Ben White isn't, but that's just more of like a logistical thing. Obviously, he deserves to be in the squad, but he's not going to be in it, so I'd be wasting my time realistically. But what do you make of this? What would be your ideal squad? Drop that down in the comment section below. I'd love to see your thoughts and rate mine out of 10. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you are new to the channel. You can also follow me on social media. It is at TheOfficialFNG on Twitter, Insta, and on TikTok. But it's been a pleasure ranting at you guys today. Have a wonderful day, enjoy yourselves, and goodbye.